Sports is more than just results. It's context, it's decisions, it's moments. Welcome to Second Take with IDK. Isma Dakawa Chigongo. Good to see you. We'll be talking about big games, bold opinions, real sport talk, basically. Isma, it's been a while, really. Yeah. Where have you been? I saw you globetrot a little bit.
You know, these days I'm even on TikTok.
I know, I've seen you dance.
I'm about to fight with my children. But anyway, not dancing, that I do. Quite a bit. My friends with whom we've lived for a large part of the past 30 years can at least make a case for me. I actually, recently I was beating my son at the moonwalk. Ooh. Just to understand how good a dancer I am. Yeah, but I've been in Morocco. Yeah? I was covering the 2025 Africa Cup of Nations for Nation Media Group. Quite an experience. So that's a bit of what I've been doing. Very cold. I think for the entire period I was there, which was about a month, I hardly took off my sweater or my jumper or even the coat that I was wearing. A coat that I actually got some time back in 2022. I think I bought it while in the UK because I got very cold while in the UK and I had to buy one of those heavy woolen things. Yes. And it didn't make sense at the time, but now, after 3 years of not using that coat, I had to use it again in Morocco. So I was at the AFCON, commendable tournament. I think everyone who has watched it on TV has seen the amount of credit that Morocco has got for the infrastructure. I also think the people were told how to behave towards us because the people were very nice. Everyone you met was very willing to say, welcome to Morocco, and sometimes that's very important. So while there may be at some point in future, since this is our first show, we'll start talk about AFCON 2027.
Oh, yeah.
And those are some of the things I think we need to pick up, because even the taxi guy, even the ordinary person on the street would find and say, hey, welcome to Morocco. And I thought that cannot be about the people themselves. That has to be deliberate, yeah, from the organizers or from the entire system in Morocco that enabled people or taught people how to behave towards the visitors. In the end, I thought the football was at a very, very high level. This, I dare say, is the best a collection of African teams have played at an AFCON. Okay. I thought the level of the football has gone up quite a bit.
A notch higher.
Yeah, a notch higher. I think must be about either the players we are getting in from Europe, because every country now has a lot of diaspora players, and a bit of the coaching. And in the end, of course, a very controversial final.
You know, I'm just dying. I don't know, maybe we can squeeze it in. Yeah. What are your thoughts on that most dramatic of finals?
Can you imagine if Senegal had walked off and not returned?
I actually wanted them to walk off. I was saying stay off. At home, I was watching it and I was like, stay off. I would have walked off as well.
So, some of my friends at CAF and these other forums might see me encouraging something that is bad behavior. And that may not be very good. In the end, maybe in a sporting sense, they shouldn't walk off.
Yeah, yeah.
But I thought what happened on the final was a culmination of what had happened throughout the tournament. Most of the teams had been accusing Morocco of winning unfairly because there had been a debate about the officiating throughout the tournament. Of course, that's exasperated by the game between Morocco and Cameroon. While Morocco were by far the better team, and I still think Cameroon should have gone home, because we shouldn't condone teams that come to tournaments and they are not prepared, because Cameroon were very, very disorganized when they showed up for the tournament. Remember, they submitted 2 teams, they submitted 2 coaches, that kind of thing, and Samuel Eto'o is fighting one part. There's Samuel Eto'o who is a Fecafoot. Fecafoot is the equivalent of FOFA. The Fecafoot president is fighting for one side, and then the government is fighting on the other side. In the end, I was glad Cameroon went home. However, I thought the complaint started in that game because Mbeumo was brought down and the penalty wasn't awarded for Cameroon, even if they were playing poorly and they had lost. They were already trailing 2 goals. Maybe even the penalty wouldn't have counted for much. Then you're going to the game against Nigeria. Yeah. Nigeria feels so many decisions went wrong against them. I remember one because I was watching that semi-final from the stand amongst the fans right at the top where they took the penalties. And it's from there that I saw El Canus. I think he plays at Leicester City. And he goes and kicks the ball away when clearly the whistle had gone. And in football, that's a yellow card, and it wasn't given. And there were so many other 50-50 calls that are not given. Tiny fouls on Lukman, on Iwobi, that irritated the Nigerians. Then there is the addition of the towels. Because what people saw in the final, which was the towels being pulled away from Eduardo Mendy, the Senegalese goalkeeper, had also happened to Nwabali, the Nigerian goalkeeper, because Morocco are very deliberate. They ensure that the ball boys come and keep taking away the towels, so you keep giving them more. Yeah? So there was all this anger that had been built. Then eventually, it rises towards the final, because on Friday, which was 2 days before the final was played on Sunday, Morocco had to travel from Tangier. Tangier is about 254 kilometers outside of Rabat, where the final was to be played. So they take a train and arrive at the train station. Now, the train station in Rabat is right in the middle of the city, so there's so many people moving around. In the end, they get the train station and there is no one to receive them. No one, there's no security, so the fans mock them, the kind of things where you're supposed to be protected.
Yeah.
That even with your noise, the people are getting to their bus and it has tint and your noise just bounces off the ceiling or something. There was nothing like that. So they are mad. The Senegalese write an official complaint. They also complain about the hotel. Now they were told to go and have their training session on Saturday before the final, and that training session was supposed to be at King Mohammed VI training football complex, which is where the Moroccan team had been based. So the Senegalese say, we cannot train at a place where the Moroccans have access to whatever we are doing in our final training session. So they refused to train there. CAF had to find an alternative place where they could train. Thirdly, they also complain about the hotel. They said the hotel they had been given was not good enough. Of course, it's better than most of our hotels here,
Yeah,
but they say that's not good enough. So they are told by CAF to find a hotel which they like, and then CAF would reimburse and pay for that. So by the time to get to the final, the Senegalese had already made themselves aware that they are going to be cheated. So in the end, the final goes, I thought Senegal were the better side for large periods. Then they score a goal, Ismail Assar, and it's cancelled. And then soon after, the Moroccans are handed a penalty, which eventually Brahim Diaz missed. But the pile-up, what you saw on that day, is a pile-up of all those things. And then in that final, remember Mendy was losing towels.
Yeah.
And actually, Senegal had to assign a player just to protect.
And he was very good at
it.
Yeah.
Their second choice goalkeeper to protect the towels. And then the Moroccans then also have Saibari, Ismail Saibari, who gets off the pitch as a sub and goes, and his job is to keep throwing away the towels. Yet, the conditions were atrocious because remember it's raining and those gloves normally get wet and slippery. So every goalkeeper anywhere in the world would need their towels. Yeah, to keep cleaning those gloves.
Sometimes
you see them everywhere in the world.
Even a bottle of water sometimes.
So it was a bit of Morocco trying to make, I think, Senegal comfortable, but they showed up good.
Have they addressed that particular issue of towels?
Not yet? Not really, but one of the last stories I saw, I think was yesterday, is there supposed to be a CAF disciplinary meeting?
Yes.
That is supposed to hand out sanctions. And Morocco will get, rather Senegal first will get severe sanctions. First of all, for the mess of the fans. Remember the fans came from the stands and fought with stewards and some had to be taken away. In the media tribune, some journalists fought too. I don't think those will be fined or banned. Then there has to be fines for the Senegalese FA. There has to be a fine and ban for Pape Thiaw, the Senegalese coach, and maybe some of the players for encouraging his players to get off. And then,
so he did it later.
Yeah, in the end, Sadio Mane got them back onto the pitch. But I thought what eventually happened in that final was a culmination of what everyone had been feeling. Because we might talk about Cameroon and Nigeria, but before that there was Tanzania. Tanzania, who everyone thought was supposed to be a walkover in the round of 16, were also denied a penalty, which looked legitimate every time you watch a replay. And everyone started feeling, okay, everyone is favoring Morocco. And there's also this accusation between most African journalists and CAF that the CAF president, Patrice Motsepe, is in bed with Morocco. And he had to respond to these accusations at the final press conference and try to play it down and everything. But in the end, for me, sometimes I tell myself that I watch a lot of sport and there are things I want to forget. Now, there are so many things I've watched in sport that I would rather erase just to accommodate that day, that final, Senegal versus Cameroon. There are things I've watched and I think I'll conveniently forget them, but not forget January 18th, 2026.
Okay, very quickly, before we move on, I just want to ask, you talked about, from the cab driver to people on the streets, feeling the AFCON. Do you think all Moroccans were entitled? They had a sense of entitlement, and that's why, even the ref, was seemingly, one-sided. Do you think everyone felt this is ours, we are hosting and we have to win it?
To be honest, many Moroccans wanted their team to win the AFCON. I thought that was key. This is a tournament they haven't won since 1976, 50 years. And Morocco as a country has had a very frustrating relationship with Africa.
Yeah.
Remember, they've even quit the African Union before, I think 1984,
yes.
And eventually came back in 2007. In 2015, they were handed the rights to host this very AFCON, which they eventually refused to host because of an Ebola outbreak in West Africa. And then eventually, CAF handed them this tournament. So I thought they felt a divine right to win this after 50 years. Every Moroccan felt they have to win. However, while I was in Rabat and I had a chance to speak to so many of the fans, all of them right from the onset, right from after the first group game, all of them told me they fear Senegal and they respect Senegal the most. No wonder in the end, if they would rather lose to anyone, they would rather have lost to Senegal. Because I can imagine if, for example, if they had played that semi-final, if Algeria had beaten Nigeria and got to that semi-final, it was Algeria versus Morocco, with the relationship we know politically between Algeria and Morocco, it would have been a very different game of football. Maybe it would have spilled over the street, but there was a divine right that after 50 years, and after becoming the first African team to get the semi-finals of FIFA World Cup in Qatar 2022, everyone felt that the justification they can give for getting to the semi-finals in Qatar was for them to win the Africa Cup, just to emphasize that they're best team in Africa. First of all, they're the top-ranked team as per FIFA. The first team to get the semi-finals in the World Cup. So they felt this was a bit like validation for the country that if Morocco win the Africa Cup, then everyone will know that this is the best team on the continent.
Okay, well, you're still watching Second Take with IDK. Now, Isma, why Second Take? Why now? Why this channel?
I've been off television for quite some time. And I meet a lot of people who say, we no longer see you. What's your opinion on this? What's your opinion on that? So over time, I felt I have to do something. I have to do this because I've lived my entire adult life talking sport, something I started at the age of 10. And it wasn't going to stop at some point. So I thought about something I could do. There's a time I was pretending to do exercise. So I met a gentleman who does running. And then he goes, are you on NTV? I said, no, I'm currently not on television, but I would love to be. Then he gave me the idea. Then I have friends. I have my friend Nicholas Wamala, is into car accessories. I have Nicholas Lumala and then my brother Nicholas Wamala. They have similar names. They've asked me to do this for a very long time. And then there's a lot of people who do all this analysis. But analysis alone is not enough. There's enough people who break stories. There's enough people who tell stories. Sometimes I feel there's a gap in analysis. Every time I listen to people speak, there's something they haven't said, And I'm always telling myself, I could have said this, I could have done this better. So eventually, the trends got to me, and that's why we are here. And we'll be doing this program, Second Take with IDK, every week in English and Luganda. And you'll be able to get my opinion on so many of these trending topics in sports over the next period of time, until maybe we choose to do something else.
Okay. There you have it, Second Take with IDK, Isma Dakaba Chigongo. So Isma, another big game that happened over the weekend.
But do people even know who you are?
Oh.
Did you mention?
No, I didn't because it's, okay.
You're so used to being, when I first met Mabel, and this ought to give her your age. because that's not a good thing. I've known Mabel for the last 12 years now.
Yeah, it's about 12.
12, 12, nearly 13 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, because this year is 11th wedding anniversary, and I met you before
I got married.
Before there was a wedding.
Yeah.
So it's been quite some time. You know, she's Mabel Kebirungi, by the way. She happens to be my friend in so many ways. And unlike me, who is identified by sport, because many places where I go, anyone who has heard of me has heard of me because of sport. So I'm very lucky. That's why sometimes I say I was chosen by sport, not that I chose sport. So people tend to identify me, and I love it that way because it's perhaps something I do for anywhere between 16 and 19 hours a day, every single day. Just to jump from these numbers to that one, from this context to that one, from that, yeah, from memories to the future. Yeah. So she's Mabel Kebirungi. Let me do the honors.
Thank you very much, Isma. And I'm also a lover of sport.
Yeah.
So another game we would like to talk about is the English Premier League game last weekend, Arsenal versus Manchester United. Are Arsenal still title contenders or are they pretenders?
I would first of all love to hear from you, because I know, as a Leicester City fan and former Arsenal fan with a soft spot for Arsenal,
yes,
how did you feel, first of all?
The thing is, I somehow knew it was going to happen, because Arsenal, I think if you're the one of the statistics, whenever it comes to Manchester United, Arsenal like quake in their boots. It's like they always fear. And I think generally Arsenal have lost most to Manchester United among the big clubs. They just, where they're supposed to win, they lose. So I was sad, yes, but
The people behind the camera also Arsenal.
they're also Arsenal fans. Oh, sorry to them. But I kudos to United for sure.
You want to give them the flowers. First of all, I'd first of all start by saying that to your question, the title is still Arsenal's to lose. While there's 4 points between them and Man City and
Villa.
Aston Villa, I'll be shocked if Villa win the title. I sometimes want to ignore them in terms of a title race. And I get to understand why Arsenal fans start to feel a bit edgy. Their recent history does not suggest a team that converts advantages into titles.
In the last couple of years, they've been at this position.
They've finished second. And then now they are going through a spell where they are losing games and drawing them. Because before that defeat to Manchester United, they had also drawn with Liverpool and at Nottingham Forest. Results that should not really... The one against Forest. You can excuse Liverpool, outgoing champions and all, but they should not perhaps be drawing points at Forest. Maybe for some, they should even be losing to Manchester United, because this was Manchester United's first victory at the Emirates since 2017.
Imagine that.
So it's nearly 9 years since United won there. For everything that United have been, and we had a glimpse of what United were going to become in the aftermath of that result against Manchester City in the derby. But not only the results, about how well they played. Because many a time, it's very easy for us to pick out the numbers, to see all those things. But sometimes for me, I don't even look at the numbers yet. I watch the game and formulate an opinion about it before and after the game. And then when I look at the numbers thereafter, it becomes a little more staggering. While this result is also very scary, is that this is the first time Arsenal have conceded 3 goals in 136 games.
Wow.
That's how good they've been defensively. So on this one occasion, I thought the defense collapsed. The one thing that stands out for me is the fact that I started seeing a bit of Arsenal acting like a team under pressure. That's why they are not playing that extra pass in the final third. The things that they could do very well, they are not doing them, because now there is title pressure. It's no longer about just the 3 points, or the next goal you score, or the next goal you concede. That next goal you score or concede could mean so much in June. So those things are starting to get onto their heads. In that game, there were so many Arsenal players that went missing. But the one who went missing the most was actually their best player going forward, Bukayo Saka. The few moments when they got behind the United backline were down to what Bukayo Saka did. But I don't think even with what Arsenal did on the day, they deserve to win the game. No, I don't think so. United were the better team, especially in that second half. Of course, they were gifted some of the goals. Yeah. When you see what Mbeumo did, some people, the goal that Mbeumo scored, some people will even contest the goal that Dogo scored because the ball carrier touches his arm, but everyone was watching on TV. I think you saw they brought the rule at halftime and explained what that exactly means. Even if the ball touches his arm, comes from the body, not intentional. Even if, personally, the rule I've always known is down to the fact that when the ball touches your hand, intentional or not, but you're in an attacking third and leads into a goal, the goal is disallowed. That's what I expected. In the end, that wasn't the case. But I don't think Arsenal did enough.
They didn't do enough.
And sometimes I fear for teams that go into a game and they are waiting for that odd set piece.
I wanted to talk about that.
Yeah, please get to
because in all competitions, Arsenal has scored 24 goals from set pieces and 14 in the Premier League. Specifically,
that should be a season high, a league high.
Yes, it is. It is a league high.
Because United maybe have 12 in the league. Yeah, they've scored 12 in the league. I don't know what the other team is that has that comes third. But it's also Liverpool, I think, who have scored 1 or 2.
Yes.
Yeah. Only this one. And remember, the first was a corner kick from Salah. The first goal from Van Dijk also scored 1 against Bournemouth.
So are they over-reliant on those set
I think pieces? I think they are. And sometimes I think they're fouling the goalkeeper. A lot of the time. The manner in which I like the idea that they have around the set pieces, because when we watch the set pieces and felt they were ant-football many years ago, 20 years ago, Stoke, Bolton, Almeria in Spain, the teams that used to do those things well, even them did not have a mastery around the set pieces like Arsenal do. The manner in which they crowd the goalkeeper, because when you get to a goalkeeper who is defending, when Arsenal have a set piece, they get to a point where they can't go forward or can't go backwards if the ball is flying over them or is ahead of them, because there is players on either side of them. And I think that's very good in terms of what Arsenal are thinking. But 14 goals, and you think the next goal is supposed to come out of a set piece, I think they are doing it too much. They've got to get back to playing the football, because the Arsenal that Mabel and I know, and we are perhaps of the same generation, is the Arsenal that was known as Kawowo, beautiful football. But people would say that did not win anything. However, under Arsene Wenger, it won a lot of trophies, including 3 league titles. Now, Arsenal no longer play that. They can no longer be identified as a team that play the beautiful football. So they are going to survive over set pieces. And that's why their goal against Manchester United, the Mikel Merino goal, was also a set piece. And besides just the direct goal from a set piece, they're also getting the second balls, because the Merino goal was a second ball. And there's bound to be many more like that. Now, my challenge with that is that it takes away the ingenuity of players. When you have a player with the ability of Martin Odegaard, when you have a player with the ability of Leandro Trossard, and the pace of Martinelli, plus the mind of Bukayo Saka, because he can do so many things. He can play the pass, he can shoot at goal, he can beat the man in front of him. If you get them into a position where they are thinking, our next goal is going to come from a corner or a free kick, they are going to reserve some of their abilities. Instead of Saka going round a player and trying to stone his feet to get into the box, he's going to take a knock and wait for that free kick. And sometimes that can be detrimental. But in football, they always say the end justifies the means. And it's not even a football term. I think for me, it's an economics term. Yeah, it's a term about survival. Yeah, when you talk about survival, the end justifies the means. And in that sense, when a team has not won the league title for as long as Arsenal have not, because we are talking 22 years now.
Unbelievable, yeah.
Any, you know, when they last won in 2004, none of us ever imagined it would be 22 years now.
I know, yeah.
And the one beaten started the next season very well. That's the first season that Jose Mourinho came in the league, 2004-05. They looked like they were going to win the league and then eventually finish second. Then looks like it's going to happen the next season. Then it's going to happen the next season and then doesn't happen. Then before you know it, it's 22 years. But the pile up and the emotion of that is making us to believe that they are going to find a way to get the ball into the net, and it doesn't matter. Maybe for the football purist, and I'm not one of the purists, I'm not one of those who thinks every pass should have, every goal should have 8 passes or more or 21. I'm one who believes in get the ball into the back of the net legally. Now, in Arsenal's case, I think they need to vary their game. Sometimes those are attributes that I mentioned of these special players that they have are not showing up because we are all sitting in front of the television and we are thinking they are going to get a set piece.
And they don't.
And then they don't.
Let's talk about Manchester United. Is it a flash in the pan, or is it, are they, I mean, they've beaten City, they've beaten Arsenal, no one would have given it to them. Yeah, tell me, is this something Amorim had built before Michael Carrick took over?
No, Amorim was a waste of time. Was a waste of time. Maybe that language.
So what has Carrick built in these 2 weeks?
I think he's gone back to the basics. All of us, many people complain, and let me say this first. Football does not have a perfect formation. There is no team that wins because they play back 3 and another wins because they play back 4. Every system in sport or in football has a weakness. However, I've always asked the question, what comes first? Is it the system or the players? In my case, I want to believe the players come first. Now, from what I saw under Ruben Amorim, it was largely the system before the players. What Carrick has done is just to go back to the basics. The basics, let's have a back 4. Let's have 2 players sitting in the midfield. That is Casemiro and Kobe Mainoo. Mainoo has the freedom to pursue the ball. Let's get Bruno Fernandes into a number 10 as a creative player, not playing in a deep position like Amorim wanted. Let's give the guys in the forward positions a bit of freedom. That is Mbeumo, Amad Diallo, and eventually Patrick Dogu was playing off the left. Get back to basics. Like, I think it should be Louis van Gaal or Johan Cruyff, one of those Dutch coaches, said football is a very simple game complicated by fools. Yeah? Because I believe football is simple that if Mabel and I are both wearing black, then we're on the same team. When I get the ball, I pass to Mabel. Mabel passes the next person in black, and that's how the game goes on. So do not complicate it. Now, what I felt with what has changed between Amorim and Carrick is just get back to the basics. Back 3 or back 5, whatever, without the ball with wing backs did not suit United. He goes back, plays a back 4, plays the 2 players and then the freedom at the top, and United are playing very well. Everyone is back in sync. Players are enjoying the game a lot more. You could sense that they are willing to fight, the kind of energy they put in, for example, in that game against Manchester City, and they get the result. Is 1-2 games in a row now.
Yeah, 2 very important games. Yeah.
Of course, they may count for nothing if they don't beat Fulham. Yeah, they have to beat Fulham in their next game and probably get into the top 4. And that's how everyone will start debating whether they should give him the job. But remember, there's something about United that people always say maybe they are not giving coaches enough time. Maybe people have been talking about what's United's DNA. Yeah. By the person who invented DNA passed on, I think in December. Yeah. So people talk about United DNA, and someone even asked, what's United DNA? Because for some, the United that we have watched in the recent past, the DNA we have is them finishing 14th. Yeah. Or scrambling somewhere in the Europa League. There is a generation of us who know a United DNA that scores late winners, whether we are happy or angry at them or not. That's the United that we knew. There's a different United that we watch now. What Carrick has done is to bring back that so-called United DNA. At least, even when United were not very entertaining, they are the one team you always knew through the 90s and the early 2000s who are going to fight for everything on the pitch. And maybe for some of the managers that we've seen under Ten Hag, under Ruben Amorim, we haven't seen a bit of that. Now we see it. You see that United are willing to fight. I think I cannot even point on something, and maybe the simple things are the hardest. Because I need to use the word special. I cannot find something very special that Carrick has done. But in life, and especially in football, the people who do the simplest of things are the ones who succeed. If you try to get square pegs into round holes or round holes into square pegs, you're going to have a challenge. And you watch United play now and you sense that's exactly what the previous manager was doing. The current one has decided that if Kobe Mino is going to play and I'm going to get results of him, let's give him the freedom to run from box to box and it's going to give me results. If I want Brandon Mbeumo to give me results, he's not going to play as wing back. Neither is Amad Diallo. And the results are that instant. He's watched Patrick Dogo play at wing back, a left wing back under Ruben Amorim, and realized maybe he doesn't have the intelligence to know when to sit back and when to go forward, and then is a poor cross of the ball. So it's put him in a situation where he's receiving the ball and going inside into the pitch, where he can play the simple 5-10 meter pass or shoot at goal. And all these basic things start to show that maybe coaching is not that hard. Yeah?
Everyone thinks they can do it. So that is what you'd say is the way forward. You'd say for Arsenal, they need not to panic and score goals, look outside set pieces.
Yeah.
And for Manchester United, they need to beat Fulham.
Yeah, they need to beat Fulham. And then the debate around Michael Carrick getting the job permanent will go even a notch higher. Arsenal still, I think in terms of the title race, Arsenal still have a gap. I think they need to get rid of the title pressure first. Get back to play. I don't know whether you can even do that. From the coach, from Mikel Arteta, divert all the pressure onto yourself. Because recently I've had even some very nonsensical arguments. I want to use the word nonsensical. Can Arsenal win 4 trophies? Will Arsenal win the Champions League for the first time because they're top of the Champions League table? First of all, being on top of the Champions League table counts for nothing.
In this new format.
In this new format. Liverpool were top last season, lost in the next round, in the round of 16 to PSG. Because the draw will not favor you at all because you finish top. So you get out of here and play Real Madrid or play Chelsea or play Barcelona or Bayern. Not Bayern, okay, Bayern as second. But you could still be in trouble. So it doesn't matter. Then, that nonsensical argument about how Arsenal can win more than one title. Mabel, the hardest trophy to get is the first one. Arsenal need to seal the title that they see in front of them, and for me it's the league title. It's one they've been in control. It's one whose result cannot be determined by anyone else. Okay, there's a Carabao Cup. If they knock out Chelsea, they have a second leg to come. They won the first leg at Stamford Bridge, and the second leg is at the Emirates. They get a result, get to a Carabao Cup final in February, perhaps win that, bank that. But the most important trophy is the league title. So I would even sacrifice, if I'm Mikel Arteta and the players, I'd even sacrifice the thought of thinking beyond one trophy, because the precedents in England have been there. Yes, United won a treble. Yes, Man City eventually choked up the treble. But there's a closer team here in Liverpool who have previously gone the season and lost one league game and only won the Carabao Cup and failed to lift the league title. And even last season, they could only win the league and they could not convert on the other front. So I do not want anyone involved with us to even start thinking beyond delivering that first one, because there is a mental hurdle that Arsenal have to overcome. There are not many players in this team who have won, not only the league, but have not even anywhere else. So the important one is this first hurdle. How do Arsenal navigate the next 15 games, perhaps win 12 of the 15 and win the league title? After that, you can have the thought, whatever happens in the Champions League or in the FA Cup matters little if Arsenal convert this into their first league title in 22 years.
Hopefully, that will happen. The Ugandans will be excited. But let's talk now about the Uganda Premier League title race. Tell us about Police FC. What have they been cooking?
I've actually been shocked with what Police have been able to do.
Yeah, exactly.
First of all, they move and start playing their games at Chira Road. Of course, there are no stands at the stadium. At least the playing surface is good, but there are no stands. And that is the one thing that perhaps that has to change, that when you go there, you have to stand. Then two, what has changed, I think what has changed with police is something that happens periodically at that club every 6 to 8 to 10 years. When the management of the club has money, and this is a government side, a forces team, police tend to perform well. When they start to struggle financially and the players do not have a transport refund, or their salaries are coming late, or they are paid once in 3 months, then there's a problem. So that's one of the things that they sorted. Then they got a coaching team that's given a bit of power. Matia Lule, I have my doubts about him. I've shared with him on several occasions. The things I think, yeah, I think he could improve as a person. And we share quite a bit, yeah? We always have a conversation every time we meet. Actually, on Saturday when we were watching URA against Vipers, we spoke quite a bit and was asking for something that needs me to help him with. But I've always doubted his ability to transform sides into title challengers. But what is done there, I think, is a commendable job with the entire coaching team that he has. But for me, it starts with the management, having the players receive their pay in time. That's what changes for most of these sides. And what happens at police is no different from what happens at Maroons and UPDF. Yeah, these teams, when they have a bit of money, they can soar. When they are struggling, they are relegation contenders, and that oscillation goes on for the time I've been involved and around football for a very long time. Then they went and signed some decent players. Charles Bale with a bit of experience, formerly at Villa and played in Rwanda. So they brought in some of those players, and they've come together and put together quite a decent team. They are tough to beat at their police arena in Chira. If they keep picking results, they will be right there in the conversation. However, the title cannot be about them, Mabel.
It can't.
It cannot, because for everything that police are, is perhaps twice what Vipers are. And the champions who have won the league on 7 occasions, I think are in the moment where they want to kick on and make a statement. Many of us could have doubts after they lost Alan Okello.
Yeah.
And he's moved to Yanga. And maybe it's later on when the transfer window closes, we'll have a review of the deals that have gone on for Uganda and how Ugandan football can benefit from Alan Okello, John Paul Dembe, Stephen Mukwala, and all the others, Mustafa Keys and all the others who have moved during this window. But this season, Alan Okello has not been as critical to what Vipers have done in the league. They started the season like a house on fire. They won what? They are opening 5 games. By the time they got to 10, by the time they got to 11 games, they had won 8 and drawn 3. But you cannot really point out the big contributions of Alan Okello in those.
Okay.
So maybe it wasn't a factor this season. However, it was a big factor last season as they won the league, and that's why he scored the number of goals he did, as many as 18, even if some were penalties. Even without him, I think they want to make a statement.
Yeah.
I was at their game against URA at Nachivubo, and I thought they could have won the game 5-3. Eventually, they won it They won it 3-0. URA had their chances. They were very wasteful in front of goal. But the goals that Vipers scored that day were beautiful. They were for a team that is in the moment and are trying to win a league title. Because for one of the goals, I think Gusto Mulongo picks the ball and plays a pass to Usama Arafat on the break. And Usama Arafat has the eye and intelligence to play it back to Gusto to score. So there were so many good things they did. I thought I loved their pressing. There is moments when URA could not even get out of their box. And what was left was Derrick Ochan, who I thought did not have a very good day, was to kick the ball out of play. So there's so many good things about Vipers that day that if they continue in the same vein, they will be right there in the conversation. And maybe police will not. And maybe everyone is crying out for KC and Villa to be in that conversation. Yeah.
Yes, I wanted to ask, what can they do to dethrone Vipers?
KCC have administrative issues, I think, that all of us do not really get to know. And I
now
not even
new boss.
Yeah, I do not even understand what they are. The Lord Mayor has changed, but he won't take office until after the season is done. So you're talking about May because their patron hasn't changed. Nerias Lukwago. I like Anisha Muhozi because every time I've wanted something about the club, she's been there to give me the information. But one of the things that has happened with the club is, and they've not won in a very long time. They've not won the league title in a long time. Everyone will say since Mike Mutebi. The challenge with them is that they've not had a coach who inspires confidence outside of the club. All their coaches over their recent appointments have been questioned every time. And for me, that is the first challenge they have to overcome. They've signed so many players. Now Branson and Jackson Magera are working together. But sometimes it's working, sometimes it's not. They were very poor in the game against Maroons last week. So they need to find something that works for them. And you can't know exactly what it is. Maybe pile a bit more responsibility on Ivan Ahimbisiwe. When we've seen him in a situation where he has to score, he gets his goals. Then how do you make Ivan Ahimbisiwe? When you make him your main guy, how do you get him the ball? At the full, is it about Lazaro Mwambalo on the right? Is it about the guys on the left? There's so many things that have to be figured out. And I've always thought that the two coaches, Senyon and Magera, do not really share a philosophy. So you found them in a situation where they have to work together. And maybe sometimes like the rule of magnetism in physics, yeah? Like poles repel and like poles attract. Maybe a bit north and south pole, maybe that would make them work well together. But when things are not going well, we are going to start getting picky, yeah? Maybe when they pick results and they are a point ahead of Vipers, a point behind Vipers, and they're still in the title race, the table suggests they are. But just they need, just a point difference. So they need to show it on the pitch. Yeah, they need to show maybe a bit more, and everyone will start to believe that Casey will be there right at the end, because maybe you don't win the title now, but you may lose it. So you need to be in the conversation in May, and that's all that I think Casey need to do. On the other side, you asked about Villa too. When they got in their coach, Nemanja Kovacevic, I thought there were doubts because he's Serbian, he's been brought in by Mitchell, and we didn't know a lot about him. But oh my, they started this on like a house on fire. I think they are the best pressing team in the league. Their work ethic off the ball is to be admired. Yes, they lost their previous game against Bull by 2-1, but they are bound to get more positive results than negatives. Yeah, and that's one of the things that everyone has to look at in terms of SC Villa. I think they'll be there in the conversation. My doubt about them is the lack of a consistent goal scorer. They brought in Frank Sebufu, who has been playing in the US. But even he, during his time at Wakiso and his previous clubs, he's never had the numbers. But even in the league where strikers do not score 20, maybe you need 18 goals from Alan Okello. Where are those 15 goals going to come from? Jonah Patrick Kakande or Regan Impande? Where are these, or Frank Sebufu? Even if they share them out, it's going to be very difficult. They cannot get someone to get to maybe between 12 and 15 goals for Villa to be there in the title conversation in May.
Okay. You've given a bit of an analysis about our league here in Uganda, and I'm just wondering, our government has celebrated 40 years in power, another 5 years for NRM. We've been liberated. We celebrated Liberation Day.
Have we been liberated?
Well,
perspective depends on...
what would you say is government's contribution, the NRM government's contribution over the last 40 years?
One of the things that stands out, and I'm opening my phone not because I need to read what government has done, because those I would know. I can imagine I would know. In the last 40 years, there are things that government could have done, or things that people involved in sport like you and I think could have been done earlier or have been done slowly. Until Hoima City Stadium was done, I've been on these forums, and straight from the point when I first got a mic, I realized quickly that one of our biggest challenges is infrastructure. So we are solving a bit of that
Yeah.
as a country with Hoima City Stadium, with Lira, and with the talk of the Lugogo Arena, which is supposed to come up at some point, probably next year, probably later this year, the construction will start, and then the refurbishment of Namboli. What has existed for me for a very long time was a very laissez-faire quasi-relationship between sport and government. People will say that under Idi Amin, sport did very well, but there was never a relationship. It was just about the president as an individual, being a former boxer, a national champion, and a rugby player, and a swimmer. But there was no relationship that's really prescribed in the law. That's why when you look at the 1964 National Council of Sports Act, it mentioned sport as voluntary and amateur in that law. So I thought one of the most important things that has happened in the recent past, and engineered partly by the former President Moses Magogo, who brought a private members bill, is an act which prescribes the relationship between government and sports federations and the responsibilities of each to the other. I think that has been a very, very important milestone. I wish it had happened much earlier. And I wish the people who are running sport even by 1994 knew this. The other, like I've mentioned, is the infrastructure. Now, the challenge that we have not solved is the funding. While we are investing, I think this financial year, government is investing 585 billion shillings. But all of that, or most of it, is going into infrastructure. That means that the athlete who competes is not changing. Yeah, their lives are not changing. So that's the one area that I think government now, after 40 years when we talk about the things that have been done and those that haven't, that's the one thing that government has to preoccupy itself. That how do we help the athlete? How do we help corporate Uganda to get involved with sport? Because in many places, especially in a market like ours, where companies are not going to get known and sell because of sport. Sport still needs to be babied. Sport still needs to be midwifed, yeah, in some way for it to be able to generate the money it has to. So I've always felt this thing of tax rebates on these companies or tax cuts, like the kind that were given to the construction of hotels in 2007 for Chogam, have to be given. Because if you think you're going to milk sport with taxes, sport does not even make the money. This week there is a story of Mbarara City, who have suspended 4 players because they refused to travel for a game against Lugazin in Kamwenge district, and because they are not being paid. So you cannot look at
the bench.
Yeah, exactly. Sport here is a baby. So you need to feed it. You need to feed this cow. This cow will not give you any milk, any taxes, unless you help it. And currently, sport needs support. Sport needs every kind of money it can find. And government may not be able to do everything. But what if you gave even a 1% tax deduction for investment in sport? You know what it means to the big multinationals here? I think that has got to be the next step. And these corporate companies do not want to give sport money in the form of donations. That's why it's easy, for example, for Nile Special to partner with rugby, because the rugby fans are customers. Yeah?
Yeah.
But how many sports disciplines in this country can sell themselves as customers for this brand? So you need to balance. You need to find that balancing act, and only government commitment can deliver that.
Okay.
And I think these are things that should be discussed in the boardrooms, at the level of National Council of Sports. These are the guys who are making the decisions. At the level of the Minister of Education and Sports, with the Minister Peter Gwang, that's if he's retained, you know. There is a cabinet reshuffle that is supposed to come up. Yeah, yes. Not too long from now. So hopefully these are things that are going to be discussed, because the next phase, we are going to be talking AFCON. And how then do you support AFCON? What's the legacy? We might host a tournament here, but then by the time we get back, the community clubs are still struggling. All clubs are struggling, and none can raise 2,000 funds for a game. what would AFCON then have helped?
Anyway, that is Isma's bold opinion. We are here on Second Take with IDK. This is a new government, should I say. And it's the beginning of a new year. So hopefully there'll be a lot of things they'll take from there. So in this second segment here, we do have, I'll be asking you, why should we pay attention?
We should pay attention to the following things.
Yes.
One, Ugandan athlete Stella Chesang, who finished 8th at the Olympic Games in Paris, has recently won a marathon in Japan, in Osaka. And I thought that is very, very important. This is an athlete who has transitioned from the long distance on the track to the road.
Yeah.
And she's done quite commendable. I thought her placing at the Olympics, I almost call it a victory because she finished 8th. The terrain was that difficult. Eventually, the race was won by Sifa Hassan in Paris. I think we should pay attention about where she could eventually end up, because she still has opportunities to run in some of the biggest races across the world. The other one we should pay attention, it's not often that hockey clubs in Uganda participate in any kind of competition outside of Uganda. Growing up, the two hockey clubs that I knew and followed were Wananchi and Weatherhead, because Daily Monitor and New Vision wrote about them every single week. Now there's a Johnny Come Lately called Kampala Hockey Club. They are currently in Harare playing in the Africa Club Championship. And I think, or you could call it Africa Club Champions Cup, because it's ACCC, yeah, ACCC. I think that's commendable, because that would cost them anywhere above 60 million shillings. Yeah, it's quite a sum. Then there is my friend Desire Derekford Mugumisa. This is how we clap, yeah, because we can't waste our palms on you. He was elected the chairman of Videns Rugby Football Club at the weekend. Desire Mugumisa works with NBS.
Yes.
Previously he's worked with Urban TV. He's tried this thing. I don't know whether he was as good in front of the camera and would do as well as we've done on this show. But yeah, but I'm glad I've seen him as a go-getter. He's really trying to knock on those doors. He did a very good job as one of the organizers of the Rugby Africa Cup. Was on that committee. Then he's also part of the management of Chadondo. Now he's got into an office to manage one of Uganda's big 3 rugby sides. Heathens, yeah. He won an election at the weekend. I always say in elections, because I've been involved in one previously, you don't mention what the number of votes the other people got. You just mention who won. And congratulations, Desire. I hope you do very well for Heathens. Even if I'd prefer they don't win much, even when you're in charge, but good you're now in charge of the club. The other story, and I know you love your tennis.
I do.
Why did that love affair start?
It's mainly my sisters. They have strong opinions on tennis, and they were crazy about some players in the past. They don't really play much now, but I know one of my sisters was just a super fan of Serena Williams. So it started there. Yeah,
so it's a big week, the Australian Open. I think by the next time we have a conversation, we'll be talking about the champions, because
who do you think will make it?
For the women, it's got to be Arina Sabalenka. I saw her breeze into the semifinals earlier this morning. The game was very short. I think it was 6-3, 6-love.
Yeah.
It was that straightforward. But the person she beat was a teenager, Jovic. I think that's the name.
Iva Jovic,
18-year-old. 18-year-old, yeah. And after that, she gave a very compelling interview. She said she's here to win the trophy or nothing. If she doesn't win the trophy, it's a wasted 2 weeks for her in Melbourne. So, Arina Sabalenka, I can't think anyone beyond her, because on the other half, there's still some good players. I saw Jessica Pegula, whose story is quite enriching. She's a daughter of a billionaire who owns the Buffalo Bills in the NFL, but she still plays and gets to the top. She's a top 10 player. She knocked out Madison Keys the other night. But I also know Iga Swiatek is still in, and that will be a factor where Sabalenka ends up. On the men's side, I think it's largely about what Yannick Sinner and Carlos Alcaraz do and don't do. They both got into their 14th quarter final, but when you think 14th is a lot, because they're two very young players, their careers only getting started, and it's a rivalry we are going to enjoy for the next 10 years. They are still far behind Novak Djokovic, who has played a record 65 Grand Slam quarterfinals. But for everything that Djokovic could do, I think physically, over the last 2 years or so, we've seen that he no longer has the physical attributes to match Sinner and Alcaraz.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think it's about what those two and don't do or don't do. But if there's an opportunity, and many of us love our Cinderella story, we love our fairy tale. That's why many of us were rooting for Serena Williams to get to that Grand Slam after 23
yes.
to get to 24.
And currently now Venus, she was in Australia.
She was in Australia. She was there as a wild card. But anyway, I think currently many of us are rooting for Novak Djokovic to get the 25 Grand Slam titles, and then he can walk away, the last of that big three era. So we love a Cinderella story, but maybe it may not come because Yannick Sinner and Carlos Alcaraz are already raising the bar. So and we're talking about players. Alcaraz is now 22, and he hasn't won in Australia yet. So it must be something that Alcaraz goes to bed every night and thinks, I have to go out and deliver this title. And if those two come have that kind of mindset, and Djokovic on the other side of the court, it's going to be very difficult for him to win that 25th Grand Slam title.
Okay, thank you very much, Isma. Good to have you back on set where people can see you. Real sports conversations and very thoughtful analysis. This is Second Take with IDK. I don't know, or in this case, I do know, and I do know a lot. Thank you very much. We'll see you next time.